Good morning. Welcome to worship at Countryside Church. My name is Tim Reuter-Bowers, and I am one of the members of your Board of Trustees. We extend a special welcome to newcomers. Please join us for fellowship after the service via Zoom so that we may extend a friendly, albeit virtual hand. We are an intentionally inclusive congregation, and we affirm the individual journey. We covet on our shared journey. We honor differences, and we celebrate diversity. All are welcome. Please come back to church this afternoon at 3 p.m. to enjoy an afternoon piano music performed by our very own pianist, Dr. Janice Razik, here in the sanctuary. It's a rare opportunity to hear and see her in recital as she gears up for a few more performances later in June in Minnesota. There is no admission charge, but donations to Countryside Church will be welcomed. From your treasurer and president, there are just 2 weeks left in our fiscal year. Please check your records and make sure that you've paid your pledge for the 2021-22 year. And finally, the Interim Search Committee is pleased to announce that our new interim minister will be starting with us on September 1st. Her name is Reverend Denise Cawley, and you can look for more information in this week's church emails. Again, welcome. We're glad that you decided to spend this Sunday morning with us.
Seeing our Earth from space, we know that we have been busy creatures on this small planet. Migrations, explorations, and invasions have spread us around the globe. Unitarian Universalists of the northwest suburbs of Chicago, we occupy the ancestral lands of the Ho-Chunk, Kickapoo, Peoria, Potawatomi, Miami, and Sioux, peoples who were here and stewarded this land for many thousands of years before the incursion of Europeans. We pay our respects to elders past and present, including the more than human beings too numerous to name. May our faith guide us, that our respect and acknowledgement is but one small part of a commitment to know our true histories and to actively contribute to restoring justice and honor for Indigenous First Peoples and for the full family of life to which we all belong.
This is Pride Sunday at CCUU. Not the only time we honor and speak of LGBTQIA, but a time we celebrate history and our place in it. Pride activism always comes with a large dose of play, of floats and fans and feathers and fantasy, but it also comes with the impassioned demand that who we are and who we love must be honored. In the spirit of the most colorful justice movement yet witnessed, we are called to worship, to shape a world of worth, and to be shaped by that which is of worth. Harvey Milk said, "Hope will never be silent." And we meet to give voice to hope, to see hope, remember hope, and to become hope in every way possible. We invite the voices of the present to awaken us. We invite the wisdom of the good-hearted to shape us in holy ways, and the voices of the marginalized to call us together along the path of hope, which is the path of justice and beloved community, which is, in this spirit, beloved in this present, and for the love of the future, we worship together.
The Pride Flame by Linda Franson. We light this flame to ignite our hearts and minds, the spark of knowledge that enlightens, the shimmering hope that burns, the blazing love that engulfs our actions, the bonfire of our commitment. We light this flame for those who celebrate themselves, who fear, who hope, who persevere, who stand on the side of love for all. We light this flame for those who have been ridiculed, that they may find peace, for those who have fought to marry, that they may celebrate, for those who live in uncertainty in the world, that they may find hope. We light this flame to renew our commitment that no one shall ever again suffer for the right to love. We light this flame to celebrate our kaleidoscope of diversity, working, loving, and living on the side of love. For this, we light this flame.
And we have another candle lit this morning in honor and memory of our beloved Rem Stokes, longtime member of this congregation. The very building that we sit in is part of his testament. Rem joined this congregation 44 years ago, and he will be deeply missed. His memorial service will be held at a time to be decided upon when the family has a chance to gather and talk, and I believe it will be sometime in July. Now let us take a moment to honor a spirit of giving and of participation, to which I have to admit, most here in this room aspire and succeed in reaching. This makes the beloved community strong. Take time to comfort one another. Take time to speak of our beloveds. And this morning, let us celebrate the spirit of this congregation, which is so strong and so colorful. Amen.
As you are able in spirit and body, please rise to recite the covenant of this church with me. We unite to strengthen the bonds of kinship among all persons, to promote human dignity, and to increase reverence for life's creating, sustaining, and transforming power through worship, study, and service.
Good morning. Good morning. Today's message for all ages is a recording of a conversation I recently had with Rue the Tiger. It was great to see him again, and he's here to say hello to you. We had a nice talk about our use of pronouns when I spoke with him, and we both asked that you consider writing your pronouns on your CCU name tag like we did. Thank you. And now, the video.
Hi, Nancy. Good morning. I notice you have your pronouns on your name tag. She, her. I do too. They, them.
Hi, Rue. Yes, I saw you had your pronouns on your name tag. I've been wearing my pronouns on my small screen since we started worship and meeting online. But when we started gathering in person again, I realized it was time to put them on my actual name tag.
Yes, it's funny how sometimes you don't realize something you're doing until something changes and brings your attention to it. I didn't even know what pronouns were until I was 5 years old. I'm 6 years old now.
So now you know what pronouns are?
Yes, pronouns replace nouns. If Rue didn't have pronouns, Rue would always use Rue's name to talk about what Rue was up to. Rue would sound just like Elmo.
Yes, so pronouns, like the nouns they replace, can show number, like me or us, or can show gender, like he or she, or they can show both number and gender, like they.
Yep, I'm using they now just because I'm not sure about my gender. It feels different to me on different days. And I've been thinking lately, maybe I don't have to decide.
Well, I think that's great, Rue. Sometimes I forget, though. When I do, I'll always just say, I'm sorry, and try to get it right, okay?
Know what? Sometimes I forget too. But I like it when people try to get it right. It makes me feel like they love me for me.
Well, that is true, Rue. I do love you for you. I hope you have a wonderful Pride Month.
Thanks, Nancy. I hope you do too.
As we prepare to take this morning's offering, think upon these words. If you are proud of this church, become its advocate. If you are concerned for its future, share its message. If its values resonate deep within you, give it a measure of your devotion. This church cannot survive without your faith, your confidence, your enthusiasm. Its destiny, the larger hope, rests in all our hands. The morning's offering will now be gratefully received.
He pulled Lois and me into a corner of the basement, along with his wife Robin, away from the rest of the family, and it looked like my brother was going to deliver some devastating news. Divorce, terminal illness.
Hi, we're Lois and Jeff Phillips, and this is not the story of how Jeff and I each came into Countryside, yet it tells about one important reason we've stayed for 35 years in my case and 25 years for Jeff, and how CCUU has made us wiser, more empathetic, and more engaged.
So my brother began, we love the both of you. We want to share with you something that is very important that is happening in my life and ask for your support. Then Timothy John, my next closest sibling for nearly 50 years, told us that he was in the process of becoming my sister Tia Jolie. She explained where she was in the process and laid out the timeline for transition. There were hugs and all around and tears.
We then, the four of us, started months of planning a rollout of this important news to the rest of the immediate family and then to the extended family. Jeff and I became the envoys, confidants, co-strategists, buffers, whatever it took to help Jeff's sister with this important life change. We're happy to report that 10 years hence, no family members were lost in the transition, and everyone is happier and more peaceful.
Providing this support was hard, but it would have been impossible had Lois and I not been through the process of CCUU becoming a welcoming congregation. Through that coursework, our LGBTQ awareness grew into an ample understanding, and any reluctance we might have had became a call to action, an appreciation, and an understanding of how to support someone coming out in this way or in any other way. Thank you, CCUU.
Hi, I'm Izzy. One of the things that really brought me to CCUU was me searching for a spiritual community as a pagan, but probably the biggest thing that kept me coming here was when I realized that I'm trans. The high school youth group was a wonderful, accepting place that I could be here as, at the time, a transgender youth. and the congregation at large has continued to be massively supportive, and I'm so grateful for that.
Hi, I'm Mari, Izzy's mom. I started coming to CCUU because Izzy wanted to have a church home and she was too young to drive, and so I started bringing her to events. Pretty soon I was doing things for service and more actively involved in the community. However, I didn't join until after I saw how amazing the church community as a whole treated my daughter after she came out as being transgender. It really spoke a lot to the way that I wanted to live my life and the people that I wanted to align myself with. So I was so happy to see how much support and community there are for the LGBTQ community right here at CCUU.
Hello, my name is Cindy Thornton. I am married to Nancy Frank. I started coming to Countryside more than 5 years ago to attend drum circles. We would arrive early and I would look around at the literature on the walls and on the tables and thought to myself, wow, this place is pretty open-minded and diverse here. Christians, Jews, Buddhists, atheists, LGBTQ, pagans, all celebrating under one roof, each seeking our own truth, dignity, and acceptance. This place is different from any other church that I've ever been. It felt so welcoming, and I really like that. And we decided to start attending and check things out. And this is why we stayed.
Hello, I'm Nancy Frank, and I'm grateful to thank our congregation for becoming my spiritual family in a safe space that is accepting and affirming of all people. I first became drawn to Countryside through interesting and educational events, such as drum circles, gong bats, green sanctuary involving Tom Skilling and solar panels, labyrinth walks, time and talent, winter solstice services, and so much more. I quickly learned that this church, our 7 principles, and our diverse members are unlike any other church I had experienced in my past. I became a member 2 years ago for many reasons, but my favorite reason is having a safe space where I feel comfortable to be myself as an out lesbian and having my marriage with my wife recognized and honored. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tim Reuter-Bowers, and this is my coming in story. My husband and I started visiting CCUU in 2012 when our first son was just about 2 years old. We were looking for a place that would provide our children with a structure for religion or spirituality or neither, but kept them grounded in certain principles that we all need to adhere to as a society. So we started visiting in 2012. We joined in 2013, at which time we adopted our second son. And since then, our whole family have been members and really just appreciate the freedom to allow our kids to be part of service, to allow them to figure out their own path, and frankly, to allow us to do the same.
Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dan Yokas, and I'm a member of this congregation. My partner, Tim Walsh, and I first visited Countryside UU in 2001 when we learned that it was a welcoming congregation. Well, we came for the welcome, but stayed for the principles and the people we met here. We became members in 2002, and we are glad that we did. Every year during the month of June, we set aside one Sunday to celebrate our diversity and to acknowledge the contributions and challenges facing the LGBTQ community. You may recall from previous services that Pride Month originated in the United States as a commemoration of the June 28, 1969 Stonewall Uprising in New York City, which was sparked by queer and trans people of color who resisted police bigotry and harassment. And so began the liberation movement that sought to end an extremely repressive legal and social period in our history for LGBTQ people. Since then, Pride Month has been observed here at home and around the world as a time of revelry as lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people flock to the streets in joyful parades to celebrate sexual and gender diversity and to be visible, sometimes for the first time in their lives. A key feature of our annual Pride service here at Countryside has been a brief State of the Union message on the status of the LGBTQ community in America, a kind of report card on the achievements, successes, and challenges over the past year. Just as many of us had hoped that the election of Barack Obama in 2008 was ushering in a new era in race relations and possibly turning the corner on racism, we too believed that the Supreme Court decision in 2015 affirming marriage equality was taking the LGBTQ community over the finish line. Sadly, we were mistaken on both of those. The social and political climate in LGBTQ people in the United States remains mixed. On the one hand, we have remarkable visibility and support from the public. And with respect to advances on issues of marriage equality and parenting, great strides have been made. But at the same time, there remains some key challenges. Let's begin with some of the highlights of this past annual report card. National polling by Gallup reveals that support for legal same-sex marriage continues to trend upward. Back in 1996, when Gallup first asked this question, only 27% of Americans supported legal recognition of gay and lesbian marriages. But support has risen steadily over time, eventually reaching the majority level of 51% for the first time in 2011. It's important to remember that prior to achieving that majority support, almost all victories and advances for LGBTQ equality was not because we had won the hearts and minds of the American public. Those early advances came as a result of court decisions and deference to the 14th Amendment. But today, public support now stands at 70%, which is a remarkable difference in just over 2 decades. But we all know that trends can move in both directions. We remain hopeful and vigilant that public support continues to trend toward greater equality for our community. Also on a positive note, our visibility and acceptance continues to become manifest in the number of LGBTQ individuals elected to public office. That number continues to surge, growing by about 17% in the last year to nearly 1,000 elected officials, more than double the number just 4 years ago. Our ranks now include 2 governors, 2 senators, 189 state legislators, and 56 mayors, including our own Chicago Lori Lightfoot. All totaled, the Victory Institute, which tracks these numbers, has identified 986 LGBTQ elected officials. As of 2021, 23 states have at least one transgender elected official. The growth in transgender representation in the last year came entirely from elected transgender women, who grew by 71% from 21 to 36. There was no growth among the number of transgender men, which held steady at 5. In addition to the increase of elected officials, more LGBTQ Americans are being appointed to high-ranking positions within local, state, and federal government. As of January 2022, over 14% of Biden-Harris appointees identify as LGBTQ. And we have seen the appointment of a Senate-confirmed openly gay candidate for the first time. Pete Buttigieg was confirmed in the U.S. Senate in February 2021 as Secretary of Transportation. It's also noteworthy that as this country continues to struggle with a worldwide pandemic, LGBTQ Americans have demonstrated their support for the health, safety, and well-being of their fellow citizens by complying with CDC guidelines and by getting vaccinated in numbers far greater than the national average. Surveys indicate that 92% of LGBTQ Americans have received at least one dosage of the COVID-19 vaccination, compared to 76% of the general population. A significant demonstration of our support for the common good and a recognition that we are all in this together. And now we flip the report card over. Our gains and positive trends have not gone unnoticed by our opponents and our detractors. They too have been busy introducing measures to stall the advance of full equality for the LGBTQ, the Black, the brown, and women. Gay and transgender Americans are not the only ones in their crosshairs. We have seen attacks on voting rights and women's reproductive rights in attempts to limit the basic human rights of those perceived as most vulnerable. This year is heating up to be another record-breaking one for anti-LGBTQ legislation. First came bathroom bills, then Don't Say Gay. But state lawmakers may just be getting started. Over 20 states have now introduced no promo homo bills. Like Florida's Don't Say Gay bill, they reflect the erroneous belief that curriculum inclusive of all people somehow promotes being gay. Most of us realize that sex education and discussions of sexual orientation are not part of the curriculum in those early primary grades. But discussions of families are, and a child with two moms or two dads could easily find themselves in jeopardy of violating the law just by innocently talking about their families. Let's be clear. Bills like Don't Say Gay and others like it are not about improving the well-being of our young people. Instead, these bills will further stigmatize, marginalize, and isolate a group of already vulnerable young people who experience disproportionate rates of harassment and violence in school. Some of these bills would also force teachers and school administrators to out LGBTQ young people to their parents or guardians, putting them at risk of harm. The institutionalization of these bills is an overt form of transphobia and homophobia, and it goes against all public health evidence in creating a safe and supportive environment in which transgender, non-binary, queer, gay, and lesbian youths and teachers can thrive. These bills serve only one purpose: to erase LGBTQ people from every facet of public life. Republican legislators have proposed at least 325 bills so far, with about 130 targeting transgender rights specifically. That's already ahead of the 268 introduced last year, a previous record. A total of 27 bills have made it into law in 2021. This year, so far, 7 have become law, some of them quite draconian, imposing fines and potential imprisonment for violations of these laws. This trend is a continuation of a playbook that has been brought out again and again, repeatedly targeting the most marginalized groups in our society for political gain. This is red meat for the base. These bills are vile and they must not stand. In addition to restricting curriculum, a study has found that more than 1,500 book bans have been instituted in U.S. school districts in the last 9 months, a right-wing effort described as unparalleled in its intensity. The bans are largely targeting books that focus on race and LGBTQ issues, and a large number of the banned books were written by non-white or LGBTQ authors. About 22% of the banned books directly address issues of race and racism, while 33% explicitly address gay and transgender themes or have protagonists or prominent secondary characters who are LGBTQ. This brings us to an even darker side of this year's report card. Sadly, in 2021, America saw at least 57 transgender or gender non-conforming people fatally shot or killed by other violent means. We say at least because too often these crimes go unreported or misreported. In previous years, the majority of these people were Black and Latinx transgender women. So far in 2022, there have been a reported 14 homicides involving transgender Americans, most of them women of color. These victims, like all of us, are loving partners, parents, family members, friends, and community members. They worked, went to school, attended houses of worship. They were real people, people who did not deserve to have their lives taken from them. And finally, the Equality Act remains stalled in the halls of Congress. It was first introduced in 1974 and has languished in Congress for the past 48 years. If passed, it would amend the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to prohibit discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity in employment, housing, public accommodations, education, federally funded programs, credit, and jury service. Currently, there is no national non-discrimination law that protects gay and lesbian Americans. And there are still 29 states that have not outlawed LGBTQ discrimination. This means that millions of Americans can be denied housing, education, credit, and more just because of who they are or whom they love. In states across this country, LGBTQ Americans can get married on Sunday and fired or denied a rental lease on Monday. The Equality Act did pass the House of Representatives in 2019, but remains stalled in the Senate. Passage of this act is long overdue and must become a priority of the current administration. As I finished putting this report together, my thoughts turned to one of the hymns in our gray hymnal. It's hymn number 170. It says that we are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing for our lives. I would rather believe that we are a gentle, angry people, and we are marching for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are voting for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are resisting homophobia, transphobia, racism, anti-Semitism, and misogyny for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we will not be silent on November 8th. Let us you the vote, because we ain't gonna let nobody else turn us around. May it be so.
Good morning. I'm Kim Cecil, and I'm reading an excerpt from This Is How It Always Is by Lori Frankel, a book very likely to be banned, I would guess. I'm reading an excerpt between Rosie, who is a mom and a doctor volunteering in a clinic in Thailand, and the conversation is with her medic, Kay. You work here in these conditions, year in and out, without sufficient training or equipment or supplies. You've taken in these children who needed a family, and you made them your own, all while suffering the stigma of being, she trailed off. Katoi, Kay supplied the word. It sounded like cat toy. Translate for lady boy. What you say? Transgender. Rosie sounded defeated to her own ears and wondered why. But not really suffer stigma, Kay added. Oh no, I didn't mean, Rosie began. But Kay went right on. Not like for you, your child, I think. In Thailand, lots katoi. Not so big deal. We all Buddhist. It's karma. It's life. It's just another way to be. Really? It was the most astonishing thing Rosie had encountered in her travels. including the woman who had arrived in labor and literally gotten down off of an elephant. Buddhist way, Kay shrugged. Last life one thing, this life another, next another. Whatever happened last life to make me like this, not my fault. Everyone know that. Me, my soul, will be a lot of bodies before done. Some male, some female, some both. So, okay. No one care about what under my pants. What is under your pants, if you don't mind my asking? Oh, like old truck, I have all original parts. Kay smiled. Rosie was impressed with the language facility that extended to puns. Lot of clinics in Bangkok do surgery, but mostly for foreigner. Many katoi here, let be, which parts not matter, is soul, how move, how dress, how love, how be. Just like Poppy, I am female soul. Do not matter to me, or my sons or daughters or anyone, what is under pants. Make sense? Rosie nodded, speechless. It was hard to talk about these things in one's own language, never mind someone else's. So you she wasn't even sure what she was asking. But Kay nodded. I grew up north, Chiang Mai. Not really even town, rural, farm. But my cousin, Katoi, so I know it's okay. Then at school, older students, Katoi, they show me how. Hair, clothes, hormone easy to get if you want, but lots not. Just me is enough. Not same for your Poppy, I do not think. No, Rosie shook her head and told herself sternly it would not be appropriate to cry in front of this woman who she had just met. It's not the same. Everyone cares what's under Claude's pants, Poppy's pants, and many of them mind. First, everyone knew and it wasn't safe, and then no one knew, and then they found out and that was even worse. Why you keep secret? Because I didn't learn. I saw what horrors come from keeping it secret, what storms unleash when it's uncovered. But somehow I made the same mistake. Mistake good, because you learn, you fix. I don't know how, Rosie said. Middle way. At home, there is no middle way. You're male or you're female. There's no in between. You conform or you hide. You conform or you're wrong. If you dress like a girl, then you have to be a girl, all girl. And if any part of you is not, it's not okay. Not middle way between male and female. Middle way of being. Middle way of living with what is hard and who do not accept you. How do you do that? You keep remember, all is change. All what? All life. You are never finished, never done, never become, always becoming. You know, life is change, so it's okay if you are not there yet. It's like this for you and Poppy and everyone. The people who do not understand are change. The people who are afraid are change. There is no before and no after, because change is what is life. You live in change and in between. How do you do that? You learn over lifetimes. You keep trying. You will find the middle way to be. This life, next, you find your way.
Good morning. Hello. This celebration, known as Pride Month, banishes shame, secrecy, and boundaries otherwise enforced or imposed upon the LGBT communities. But Pride is a celebration of self-worth, a celebration of dignity, as well as a jubilant proclamation of one's identity, and really shouldn't be exclusively restricted for the month of June, but experienced all year long. Just imagine a world where I am what I am And love is love, and over the rainbow, somewhere there's a place for us to let us love in peace. Thank you, CCUU, and all of our allies. This is a safe place. We now extinguish the light of our chalice, but remember that the light lives on, carried into the world by you. When we are together, we turn to one another and say, I see the light in you. I share my light with you. I say on this day it is a blessing to be sharing my light with all of you. In closing, let us reach out our hands to the outer edges of our screen or your personal area. And please repeat these words at home or wherever you are. I join my hands with yours. I join my hands with yours. That we may do together. That we may do together. That which we cannot do alone. That which we cannot do alone. Blessed be.